What up, Raffalitos? Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about jets, private jets. So recently, the French company Dassault made a visit to Guyana because they were trying to sell private jets to the Guyanese market. Now, since we've become billionaires, I said in a previous video that Guyana now has $1.429 billion in our sovereign wealth fund. Since we've become billionaires, lots of people want to sell us expensive stuff. So Dassault brought down a Dassault Falcon. I haven't seen the jet personally, but I've seen some pictures on social media. Apparently the Mohammed group was given a private tour because they're in the market or probably are capable of buying one of these private jets. I, on the other hand, I'm in the process of setting up a new airline company, right, starting with private jet service. I've talked about this before. I have a number of companies I'm working on. One of them is Lezah Air or Lezah Air. It's a jet service, a charter jet service that is going to fly intercontinental routes between Georgetown and North America, Georgetown and Europe, Georgetown and Africa, and so on. The idea being that there is a gap in the market for people who want to get quickly from Guyana to, say, Nigeria or Ghana on the west coast of Africa, or even South Africa, and from there on to other locations in Africa. There are people who want to get directly from Guyana to New York or even California without having to stop in Trinidad. And there are people who want to get from Guyana to London, for example, or Paris without having to make stops in Miami or New York or Piarco in Trinidad. So the idea is behind my charter jet service is to provide charter service to large groups of people who want to be able to fly non-stop from Guyana to other continents, or even locations within South America, from Guyana to, say, Rio de Janeiro. These direct flights don't yet exist, and therefore there's a space in the market for this service. So in this video I want to talk about who could buy or should buy a private jet, and what are the various categories or classes of private jet that are available on the market. So it's a very introductory video. It's an introduction for people who are not familiar with the aircraft industry and who don't understand yet, are not familiar with how airports work. So I've done a few videos in the past. You can go check them out on Timeri Airport and Ogle Airport. There are only two airports in Guyana that really have the length of runway to handle private jets or even jet service. You need about 4,000 feet of runway to be able to take off and land safely, right? In fact, safety is one of the major concerns for operating jet service in Guyana, a place like Guyana, where you don't have a long history of providing safe, high-speed air travel, right? We don't have a local aircraft industry that provides jet service from, say, Guyana to Letem, from Georgetown to Letem, for example. If you want to go internally and travel internally in Guyana, you have to take a turbo powered aircraft, a propeller powered aircraft, turboprop, right? So a jet is different from a turbo or a propeller powered aircraft, mainly in its speed, right? It needs a longer runway to take off because its takeoff speed is much higher than a propeller powered aircraft, and it needs a longer runway to land, right? So these are some of the main requirements in terms of infrastructure to have jet service in Guyana. And we don't really have a long history of safety. Now, we've actually had Guyana Airways, which operated in the 1970s and early 80s, but since then the Guyana Airways went defunct, and we've not had a national carrier since around 1982, 83, I believe. You can check that. Those of you who are familiar with the airline industry in Guyana can check that. I remember flying on Guyana Airways in 1978. That was the first time I flew internationally, and it actually took Guyana Airways from Timeri to Piarco. and back, right? But after that, I don't remember using Guyana Airways in '92. Yeah, I think by then they had already been disbanded. So to be able to have jet service in Guyana, we're going to have to upgrade our runways. And well, we do have two international airports. We have Temeri Airport and Ogle Airport that can handle jet service, but we have to upgrade our runways at, say, Lethem and Albion and Etteringbang and Mabaruma and so on. So all of these airstrips that we have to handle interior travel are not yet upgraded to the point where they can handle jet service. But let's talk about the jets themselves. Now, Dassault is just one of many companies. Dassault is a French company that makes the Dassault Falcon, which is their most popular product. The Dassault Falcon 8X is now their top of the line private jet. But what I want to talk about is not the companies that make private jets, because there are lots of them. There are actually only about 4 countries that are in the are makers of private jets. There's Brazil that makes Embraer. There's France, which makes Dassault. There's the US, which makes business liners. There's Boeing that makes the Boeing business jets. And I suppose you can convert. There are some companies that convert. There's some companies that can convert the European manufacturer into private jets, right? So there are only about 4 countries. The U.S. There's Canada, which makes Bombardier makes Bombardier's Learjet, for example. So it's the U.S. There's Canada. There's France. There's Brazil. I don't know if the British have any private jet companies, but those are the 4 countries that make private jets. Now, there are 5 classes of private jets. 5 classes, and they're basically separated by size. Size in terms of the number of passengers they can carry, size in terms of the amount of weight they can lift, and size in terms of what you can put inside in terms of seats and accommodations and so on. So the first class, or the lowest class, or the smallest category of jets, are the light, right, the super light jets. These tend to have capacity for about 5 people, right? Can seat 5 people and can fly about 1,000 miles, have a range of about 1,000 miles. Then class 2, or the second category of jets, we call them the light jets, right? So there's a super light and there's a light jets. These tend to have a capacity or flight can take about 5 to 7 people and have a range of about 1,500 to maybe 3,000 miles. And then there's the mid-size jet, or the light mid-size jet, small mid-size jets. These tend to carry up to 10 people, right? So these tend to be the baby Learjet, or the baby Dassault Falcon, the smallest one. They tend to carry about 10 people, and now you start to need 2 pilots, right? So here you got the Cessna Citation, for example. You need 2 pilots for the light mid-sized jets, and they can take up to 10 passengers. And then the 4th class is the mid-sized jets. We're beginning to talk about business jets now, and these are up to about 20 people, can take up to about 20 people. They have a range of 3,000 to 4,000 miles, and these tend to require at least 2 pilots. You need to have 2 pilots. And then there is the living room kitchen and so on, dining room and a kitchen. So you put all that into a commercial sized aircraft, and you get kind of an apartment in the sky, right? Of course, beyond that you can go, there's no limit. You can get, you know, a 747 or a 777 or even bigger, right? So these are the 5 classes of jets. I'm not going to talk about price in this video. I'm going to talk a little bit more about them, about the prices of these jets when I introduce my own company and when we start purchasing our own, or at least leasing jets for our service. But the idea is that a private jet gives you the flexibility of having to fly, or being able to fly directly to your location. That is, in the case of my private jet company, my intercontinental jet service company, being able to fly directly from one airport to your destination without having to make stops, or without having to refuel, or without needing layovers, right? One of the major drawbacks of flying commercially is that if you wanted to, say, fly to Nairobi in Kenya from Georgetown, Guyana, you have to probably get to New York and then get to London, and then from London go down to Kenya. In fact, you might be able to get direct flight from New York to Nairobi, Kenya, but it's not available regular. It's not like a twice a day flight. So you do have stops to make stops and layovers for certain destinations if you want to fly commercially. So if you want to fly directly from one location to the next, the only way sometimes to do that is with a private jet, right, or a charter jet service, and that is where the gap in the market exists, right? So it doesn't require you to make stops or to have layovers if you have a private jet. The other feature or advantage of having a private jet is that if you are using it for business, you're able to continue doing business on your long trips. So let's say you're flying from Georgetown to Tokyo, which could probably take you up to 18 hours if you're flying non-stop. Then all that time you spend in the air, you can be doing business, you can be making conference calls, you can have meetings, you can work on your laptop or your mobile device, you can do work. So the point of having a business jet is it allows you to do business in the air while you're flying, and allows you to utilize that time instead of it being wasted, let's say, in a day or two just to commute, right? It also has the advantage that if you have a company that has locations all over the world, if you have a company that, say, has outlets in several regions, then you can fly non-stop to each one of those locations using your own private jet. And that is where it begins to make sense if you're doing it for business purposes, because the operating costs can be rolled into your business, right? And even if you purchase the jet, depreciation and so on gets rolled into your business consumables, and basically deducts from your total business expenses, from your total profit, because the expenses are covered by the cost of operating your jet, right? So this is where owning a private jet makes sense if you have a business that has many locations in many regions. It saves time, it allows you to do business or do work while you commute, right? So those are some of the reasons why you would want to own a business jet. In my case, why you want to be able to why you would be considering buying or leasing business jets is so that you can provide intercontinental direct flights, Georgetown to Johannesburg, for example, or Georgetown to Accra, or Georgetown to Lagos, and so on. So that's the idea, guys. Now, like I said, because Guyana is now a billionaire country, or a $1 billion oil producing country, we have a $1 billion sovereign wealth fund. In fact, I predicted that the sovereign wealth fund will probably reach over $2 billion, possibly $3 billion by the end of this year. We're going to see more and more companies trying to sell us really expensive stuff, in this case, private jets. So we ought to be able to prepare for this oncoming onslaught of marketing of these jets, and this is in preparation. For those of you who want to get into the market, basically want to be able to learn something about the airline industry, I'm going to provide more and more of these videos in my business channel. Like I said, I have 10 channels now. One of them is Raffle Nation Business. This video is going to be posted on Raffle Nation. So there you have it, guys. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. In the comments below, tell me what you think about Dassault Falcon bringing their private jet to Guyana. Maybe you've seen some of these videos, some of this footage in the social media. Tell me what you think about Guyana purchasing or getting into the jet service market, because there are a number of airlines now wanting to operate from Guyana, and we're getting more and more of them every day. Now we have British Airways coming to Guyana, we have JetBlue, American Airlines. I think Air Canada has already are in the process of making arrangements to come to Guyana, and so on. So if you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. Share with me in the comments below what you think about charter jet service, and in future videos, I will talk about things like safety and some of the provisions we need to make in Guyana to be able to accommodate jet service or international jet travel in Guyana. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening here in Georgia and Guyana. Later!